So is Death on the Nile? So is Death on the Nile worthy of the Great Poirot, or is it just a river in Egypt? Let's find out now. It is I, the great film critic David Stark, and I'm here to tell you about Death on the Nile. With my Poirot mustache, it looks a little different, but I had to use what I had, and my review of this film. So Death on the Nile comes to theaters on February 11th, 2022, just in time for Valentine's Day, although this isn't really the Valentine's Day movie that you think you would expect. My hot take on this is actually, I kind of liked it. I liked a lot about it. I think it's actually a watch because it was enjoyable. I liked the cast, I liked the characters. I like the mystery. There were a few things I didn't love. I'm going to get into those soon. But overall, I did enjoy it. And it does feel like a very different movie than I've seen in a while. So my recommendation is to watch it. But I'm going to tell you a little bit more about what I liked, a little bit about what I didn't like, and go into the ending, which will also spoil the end of this movie. So if you don't want to know about that, if you don't want to know what happens, then stop watching. I will try to limit the spoilers to the ending part. I'll use my detective mind to not tell you any clues until the very end. Death on the Nile gathers this strange cast of characters who all are related to this heiress Linnet, who is played by Gal Gadot. She is marrying her fiance Simon, played by Armie Hammer, and they are having this whirlwind wedding. They gather all their friends and they go eventually to this cruise riverboat type adventure on the Nile. Unfortunately, as you would imagine from a movie called Death on the Nile, a death occurs. But luckily, the great detective Poirot is there to solve the case. So the movie then turns into a detective movie where he is trying to figure out exactly what happened, who did what. And it's an interesting cast because everyone has some motivation, some sort of angle, some sort of mystery behind them. So you get essentially anyone could have been a suspect. And that's kind of what makes this movie fun. So things I liked about this movie. The first, and this is a strange one for a movie like this, the music. The music is actually really, really good. There's a lot of jazz and blues music because one of the main characters is a jazz singer played by Sophie Okonedo. And she is great and her music is fun. It kind of livens up this film, puts it into a very different feel than the very serious, somber start of the movie. But it's not just her jazz and blues music that's really great. There's also some really good orchestral music that sets this tone and gives you kind of a more serious feel for this film. Like this film, I'll go into this in the things that I was kind of didn't like. This film has, I don't really know where to put it. It has a very interesting style, but one thing I did like is the music does help to kind of set the tone to be a little bit more serious when you have a very light, colorful theme about the movie. Second thing I really liked is the sound, and this is an interesting one because there isn't a ton of sound actually. The movie is mostly detective work. There's some sounds around, there's steamship sounds, but occasionally you will get like an explosion or a gunshot or a very loud booming sound. And if you're in a good theater with some good music, it really hits you. So those kind of jolted you back into place and really got your attention, and I really liked how they did that. Especially it made like the gunshots sound that much more impactful because they're stark contrast to most of the rest of the movie. The third thing I liked are the characters. I mean, they're, like I said, this is an all-star cast full of very quirky characters, and every character is very different. They have very different personalities, they have different motivations, they all have different backgrounds. So you get this kind of rich tapestry of different individuals that are all drawn to Annette and drawn to this event for very different reasons. And I liked kind of having that variety, having all of them around and seeing them interact, because they do interact in very interesting ways. And it does lead to my next thing I really loved, which was the intrigue. It's kind of like, this movie's kind of like Clue. Everyone has an angle, everyone has a potential for why they would want to be the murderer. And so it was fun to kind of have all of that and mix it together and see eventually what happened. So things I did not love as much. The first is there was a little bit of overload at the start, partly because of all the characters. I mean, I know I said I love that, but you do got to get a lot of information at the start because you meet, I think it's like 10, 12 main characters. You have to kind of put them all together, figure out who they are and how they relate to this. So you do get a little bit of an overload at the start. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of motivations, there's a lot of kind of characters that you get introduced to in a pretty frenzied way. So I was a little bit kind of confused at the start of the movie. Eventually you get to know everyone and you can kind of recognize everyone, but it took a little bit. Now that is in sharp contrast to my next thing I didn't like, which was the slow start. I mean, this movie is called Death on the Nile. I don't think the actual death occurred until about an hour into the movie. I think I looked at my watch because it was a very long time for the actual event to occur. And before, it's not like nothing happens. Before that, you learn about the characters, you learn about the background. There's a whole sequence at the start where you kind of learn more about Poirot, which I thought was a little unnecessary. Like, you didn't need to have that. They reference it throughout, but they really did feel kind of superfluous. You could have cut that and made the movie start a little faster. You get all of this kind of build up, and then you finally get the signature event, the name of the movie about an hour in, and then the rest of it is a kind of a detective-ish novel. And the other thing that kind of hurts the film because of the slow start is Poirot doesn't actually do much detective work until the death happens. Like, he's his character, so he is making observations, but like the actual investigation doesn't really happen until the last half of the movie. So the whole first half, he's still Poirot, but he's not like the Poirot that you know and love and that you're really kind of hoping to see. I mean, they get into a little bit more of his emotions and kind of what drives him, but overall, it did feel like the start of the movie was very slow compared to the back half of the movie. The third thing I did not love, and this was a weird one, is this movie has a strange tone. Like, I don't really know where this movie wants to fit, because you've got this colorful, quirky cast of characters, these bright outfits, and this just like really bright palette for the movie. So you would think it'd be more of like a whimsical type of film, but then you have a very serious tone, some very not like gruesome, but pretty grim depictions of what happens and death, and some serious subject matter contrasted with this bright tone. So it kind of doesn't really know where it wants to fit, because part of it is quirky and weird, part of it is like serious and grim. And at the very start, there's this really long, like, sensual dance sequence that also kind of throws another wrench into this tone. Like, I didn't really know where this movie wanted to be. It did feel a little unique, and I ultimately enjoyed it, but the tone fell a little all over the place. But in the end, I didn't really know who this was for. I mean, look, I liked it, so hey, you know what? I guess maybe it was for me. But it did feel like the film didn't really know exactly what kind of tone it wanted to set. And the last thing I did not love is that the main murder, the death on the Nile, was a little obvious from some of the clues that were given. And I don't know, maybe I was just kind of looking for it, but the main death I kind of figured out from the interactions that happened then. I mean, there was still some stuff that happened after that was a little mysterious, and you kind of needed the underlying end explanation, but it did hurt the overall mystery, because I kind of figured out what had happened for that main death. So, and I'm not like a super detective, like I'm not Poirot, even though I look like Poirot. So I feel like maybe it was pretty well telegraphed for other people as well, and that takes away from the overall mystery and some of the overall kind of gravity of this situation. So now I'm going to go into the ending. Again, if you don't want to know what happens, turn this off. There will be massive spoilers, because I'm going to tell you exactly what happens. So in the end, we have this big confrontation with Poirot, and at this point, we have 3 deaths. You have the first death, which was Linnet, played by Gal Gadot. She was killed on the night that this confrontation happened. This confrontation between Simon, her husband, and Jackie, his ex-fiancée. They had this confrontation. Jackie had been kind of stalking them, and Simon was kind of fed up with it, and he told them, he like basically confronted her and said, like, go away, I never loved you, I don't even know what love was until I met Linnet. And she kind of loses it and shoots him in the leg. He falls down, and they take her away, sedate her. A doctor comes to help Simon, and during this time, at some point, Linnet dies. She gets shot in the head, right in the temple. That's the first death. The second death is her, I don't know, maid slash kind of servant, but I mean, they seem to be also kind of friends as well, although she does treat her like a servant. Louise, played by Rose Leslie, she gets killed. She gets her throat slit and then like thrown into the water wheel of this riverboat. And so like they see her going around the water wheel in a pretty gruesome way. She was the second death. The third death is Bouc, who is also Poirot's friend. He is being confronted by Poirot. They are discussing something. He's about to confess who he saw murder Louise, and he gets shot right when he's about to confess. So you have 3 deaths, all very different. And now Poirot is confronting everyone to tell, what happened. Oh, and also before this, when the couple was visiting this temple in this like old temple. A large rock fell and almost crushed them, which seemed intentional, but they couldn't really figure out who had done that. So now everyone is gathered. Poirot is going to do his Poirot thing. Let me put my detective hat on and we will discuss what happened. First off, the person that shoved that rock off was Linnet's cousin, who also ran her finances. He had been kind of siphoning money off. He hadn't been doing a good job with the books. And he was trying to also secure his position in her estate, in her, affairs, worried now that Simon was there that he would be cut off. So he thought maybe he could cover all that up by killing them. So he pushed the stone off. He apparently felt bad, still tried to kill them. Not very good, but he wasn't the ultimate killer. Now, the murderer who killed Linnet was her husband who had been shot. So this is where I said that it was a little bit projected. When during the argument after he had been shot, he like had a napkin over his knee, so you didn't actually see the bullet hole, and there was like kind of blood-ish looking paint on the napkin. And he didn't let anyone approach him. He didn't let anyone touch him. He like kind of recoiled at anyone coming near him during this. So it made me think that he wasn't shot, because you would think if he was shot, he would like look at it and try to get people to help him. But no, he waited for them to take Jackie, his ex-fiancée, away to sedate and calm down. And while they were doing this, they went to get a doctor. But during this time, while they were trying to find a doctor, he sprinted down to their cabin where his wife Linnet was sleeping. She had taken sleeping pills because she had needed that because she had so much going on. So she was sleeping under the influence of pills. He took the gun and shot her right in the temple, ran back. And when he came back, he muffled the gun with like this silk handkerchief to both prevent burns from getting on his knee and also to muffle the sound, and shot himself in the leg so that he actually would have a bullet hole when he was examined. He then chucked that gun wrapped in the silk handkerchief out of the boat, along with the napkin he had, because he used paint to look like blood. So he tossed all that over the boat, and then the doctor arrived, looked at him. He was shot clearly, and so he, patched him up. So that was the main murder. Now, unfortunately for our other friends on this boat, Louise, Rose Leslie, saw Simon run into Linnet's room, and she was too scared to do anything, so she just kind of hid when that happened. Later, I think she confronted him. He tried to pay her off, he or Jackie tried to pay her off, but then they silenced her by slitting her throat with a scalpel that Jackie had taken from this doctor who was also on the boat, who was a childhood friend of Linnet's. So that was Jackie's first kind of murder, whatever. That was Louise. What we also learn is that Bouc, who is Poirot's friend, he had been having issues with his estate. He'd been trying to kind of make it on his own, but he didn't have enough money. So he actually discovered Linnet dead. He went in there to check on her. He was going to tell her that her husband had been shot. He found her dead, and rather than kind of report this, he ended up stealing her necklace. She had this beautiful diamond necklace. So he stole that, thinking like, okay, now I can, she's dead. Now no one will notice this. Now I can start off on my own. But when he went to go hide it, he was trying to hide it so that no one would notice it. He then saw Louise get killed by Jackie. And so he knew this information. And when he was confronted by Poirot, he was about to say who he saw. And that's when Simon, who was also in the room, kind of distracted everyone. And Jackie, who was kind of outside peeking in through a grate, shot Bouc. And she shot him with a 45, like right in the neck. Like it was a pretty crazy shot to do, but like between a grate with a 45 and someone who doesn't, I guess maybe she was comfortable with guns because she had a 22. That was a pretty big gun to make that shot. Like that was a hell of a shot. So Jackie shot Bouc, runs away. Poirot pursues, doesn't catch up. That was the third murder. So now everything is out in the open. We know that Linnet's cousin tried to kill them, that Simon killed Linnet, that Jackie killed Louise, and then Jackie also killed Bouc. So everything's out there. Simon and Jackie are kind of cornered. They are, they've been exposed. Jackie pulls out the gun, but thankfully Poirot has the 45 from earlier. The killer Jackie had dropped it, and so he has it. And so they have a little standoff here. Simon basically says, like, we're gonna leave, like, we're gonna get away. You're not gonna see us again. And they're planning on escaping. Simon and Jackie embrace, and Jackie, who had made earlier kind of references to the fact that she will not let them get separated again, like she will die before they get separated. When she realized that they were probably going to go to prison, she embraces him, kind of puts the gun against his back and shoots. And so the bullet goes through him and into her. They both collapse. They both die. That's death 4 and 5. 5 deaths overall in the movie. Side note, she has a 22 pistol. I don't really think a 22 could go through him and then into her. I mean, I don't know. I feel like a 22 would probably just bounce around in his body. Anyways, that would have been less of a dramatic scene. Maybe she should have kept the 45. I don't know. But that's kind of the main mystery. That's the main end of the movie. So that is Death on the Nile. Look, I really liked it. I thought it was interesting and quirky, even though there were some things I didn't love. Like I did enjoy this cast. I enjoyed the characters. I actually enjoyed the strange tone. Like, I know I said it was weird, but I kind of enjoyed the like colorful outfits with the grim, more serious murder mystery aspects. So look, I think you should watch it. I enjoyed it. Maybe, let me know what you think if you do watch it. It's available in theaters on February 11th, 2022. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. And check out my other content. I've got other reviews and reviews, unboxing videos, and recommendations. Thank you.